UFC 261 weigh-in recap, full card predictions, and updated betting preview. Should be a really fun card. 3 title fights, fans back in the building. This is going to be an epic event. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to miss a video, turn on those post notifications too. Let's start it off with the first fight of the night. Women's bout here, Ariana Connolly versus Na Liang. Now, stylistically, I do think Connolly does have the tools to beat Na Liang, but I do need to bring up the image from the weigh-ins, and this is a factor here. Big height difference. Liang being 5'5", her opponent 5'2", but I think Na Liang looks more like 5'7", 5'8". I mean, she looks almost as tall as Dana White. She may even be taller than that. She's definitely going to be at an advantage from the kickboxing range. Granted, the style of Connolly is to rush in. She likes to close distance. She'll probably want to grab a hold of her opponent here, get this fight to the ground maybe, and work from top position. I do think she still has the tools to pull that off, even though being at such a disadvantage with the height. I feel like her strength in the clinch is going to be an advantage. Also does have 8 knockout wins on the resume. Na Liang is supposedly like a Ronda Rousey-esque style. Does have some losses outside the UFC, but probably is decent level. Tall girl, has some factors to bring into this fight. I do think that she'll be a stern test for Connolly here, but I think that you see Ariana Connolly beat Na Liang, and I think she does so by unanimous decision, even at the height disadvantage that we obviously saw at weigh-ins. Both girls on weight as well. Odds here, minus 210 for Connolly, Na Liang at plus 190. I'm feeling decision, but there's definitely upside and possibility for a knockout. Maybe a prop bet of Connolly by KO or decision. She's around the minus 220 favorite. On some sites, you can get her even at a minus 210. But she's pretty moderate confidence favorite here. And I do think she goes out there and beats Na Liang in the first fight of the night. Next fight of the night here, Jeff Molina and Quillang Eori. Very excited for this flyweight fight. I think this is a lot of action with the striking. Pick'em's odds here. The fight is going to be competitive with Eori. He's a dangerous striker and does have some explosiveness to him. Knockouts with flying knees in the past. Is a bit susceptible to takedowns. And 11 of his victories are by decision. Now, look back at the losses. 3 submission, 3 decision. He's fighting here against a primarily known striker. I feel like Molina, being a guy who does have some submissions in the arsenal, could pose a threat when it gets to the ground, but I do think Molina will want to strike, and I do think we will see a lot of striking in this matchup. I think Molina by a decision in this fight over Quillang Eori. But before I give you my final pick, we will bring up the image from the weigh-ins so we can see how they faced off. There is definitely a slight height difference, but not by much, and I don't think it's enough to play a factor. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. It's pick'em's odds. I like the pick of Jeff Molina by a decision or submission, but I definitely am leaning towards that decision pick, and I think at pretty much even money here, I think that you're going to see Molina get it done and beat Quillang Eori. Both fighters on weight at 126 for this flyweight fight. Now the next fight of the night, Zhang and Rodrigo Vargas. Zhang is a hot prospect from China, and fighting Vargas here, I think it's an exciting matchup from what I've seen of Zhang. Really slick kickboxing and does bring in some punching power. Has 11 victories by knockout, and he's a good counter striker. You look at Vargas as a southpaw, but he does get a bit reckless at times. He starts fast, and he's going to look to close the distance and probably land takedowns. He does have some decent takedowns, but I don't think here against Zhang it'll be easy by any means. We'll quickly pull up the image from the weigh-ins here. I think Zhang is going to be a very difficult fight. See if we can find the weigh-in image here. Cannot find it here. We may not have it. All right, no, we do have it. Okay. All right, so height advantage there for Zhang. It looks like more than an inch. Zhang looks maybe more like 2.5, 3 inches taller than Vargas in this fight. I think Zhu Rong could maybe even get a knockout here, especially with Vargas potentially coming out reckless, being in that southpaw stance. The straight left hand down the center line, or rather straight right hand by Zhu Rong could land here. We saw it nights ago with John Lineker. I think a TKO or decision victory for Zhu Rong is very probable here. Both fighters on weight for the lightweight division. And also something to note with Zhu Rong, he's 21 years of age. He's growing and evolving so fast, and he has 20 fights at 21 years of age. That's super impressive to me. He has a ton of experience, and I think he goes out there and gets it done over Rodrigo Vargas here. He's a fairly decent favorite at minus 225 to Vargas at the plus 205. I don't love the knockout prop bet, but I do want to check out what it's worth here. Plus 160, I don't think it's worth playing. I don't think it's a guarantee. I like Zhu Rong, maybe in a parlay piece, because I do think he wins. But do I want to throw minus 225 down? I don't know. Dana Batergol and Kevin Natividad. I think this is actually going to be fireworks between both these guys. Good matchup here with Batergol. Definitely a kickboxer. He likes to leave that lead hand out a bit far, which I think is actually a good style for him. He comes with forward pressure, and he does have big power in that left hook, and he does have 4 knockouts on the record with Natividad coming off of a bad knockout loss in his last fight. He's an aggressive striker, and he does bring in solid kickboxing skill set as well. But I do think Batrigal is going to win this fight, and I do think he could get the knockout in this one over Natividad. I like Batrigal by knockout over Kevin Natividad in what I think could be a hell of a matchup in striking fireworks. Now, let's check the odds out real quick. Plus 170 is Natividad, Batrigal minus 200. We'll quickly pull up the weigh-in image, but I do like the idea of that potential prop bet, and we'll also check that out in just a moment. But let's pull this fight up, this face-off. See, size advantage there. More than an inch, looks more like an inch and a half, 2 inches for Batirgal over Natividad. I think Batirgal's going to go out there and he's going to beat him, and I do think he knocks him out. The size difference is also something to note with the height. For that prop bet of knockout, let's see what we can get it with. Obviously, every line will slightly differ, but Batirgal wins by TKO plus 230. I don't love it. I don't want to throw a ton down on it, but I may throw a little something at Batirgal by a knockout. But I do think him beating Kevin Natividad is very confident. I do think he goes out there and he pulls it off here, and I think he does do it by KO, and I do think it is an entertaining fight. Some good fights throughout this card. It's also going to be epic having the fans back screaming. That's going to be definitely something new at this point because it's been over a year. It's been so long since we've had fans. Tristan Connolly versus Patsabatini. Connolly 146, Sabatini 146 as well. Something to note about Tristan Connolly, he's fought. He's up at welterweight as of recent. Does have a win streak going for him. This is definitely not an easy fight for Pat Sabatini, and at minus 230 to plus 190, I might advise you to skip that bet unless it's going towards the dog. With Connolly, I mean, he's a guy that definitely does have some decent striking, but his grappling game is where he shines. 9 wins by submission, and he does have a decision over Michel Pereira. He's an excellent striker. Pat Sabatini has 10 wins by submission on the record. Does have a 69-inch reach, something that's not noted there. And he is a solid striker with a good wrestling ability and control from the top position. Fighting a guy like Connolly is going to be very tricky for Pat Sabatini. I do think he could find himself getting into trouble. We'll check out the face-off from the weigh-ins. Talk about it a bit more. There's definitely some interest in a potential dog upset. Look at them next to each other. Not much of a size difference. You can see Connolly a bit taller. I don't like throwing down on Sabatini with the bet of minus 230. I mean, he's recently been fighting not UFC level guys. He's been fighting CFFC, which has decent competition. Whereas Connolly, I mean, he beat Michel Pereira, who's an exciting prospect. I'll be honest, if Connolly isn't seriously affected by taking off that 1 year and 7 months, I don't believe he will be. I really feel like he could go out there and upset Pat Sabatini. Earlier in the week, I did pick Sabatini, but seeing them next to each other, I start to lean Connolly a bit here, and I think he can potentially pull it off. At the plus 190, I am tempted to possibly play this bet. And it's definitely something for you guys to consider because I think Tristan Connolly is a live dog. And Sabatini, very good skill set, could go out there and beat him. But the higher level experience in the favor of Connolly. My one worry, though, dropping 2 weight classes, that's a lot of body weight to come off. How much was that muscle? How much was fat? How much was just water? I don't know. And I do think maybe could play a factor. Leaning Connolly right now, though, later in the week, especially seeing him hit that 146 mark and still look of decent size. Next fight of the night, Brendan Allen versus Karl Roberson. Exciting fight. We'll also pull up the weigh-in image early for this one. Definitely some tension between these two. They're ready to get at it, and I do think we're going to see an exciting fight. They're going to go for it. I think that it's interesting to see how at one point Roberson was like a hot prospect over at light heavyweight. Now he's a dog against Allen here at middleweight. They got into it at the face-offs a bit. Nothing, crazy, no fist fighting or whatnot, but definitely some intensity. Minus 160 favorite is Allen. Plus 130 is Roberson. Let's check. Those are the accurate odds. Minus 155 to plus 145. Karl Roberson has a fighting chance. He has very good striking. If he can stay off his back, I do think he can outstrike Brendan Allen here. I feel like Brendan Allen does have a lot of tools when the fight gets to the ground. Trains at a good team over at Rufus Sport. I feel like he really should win this fight, and it will definitely push him forward in his career, getting a win over a guy as notable as Karl Roberson. Granted, hasn't had championship level success, but is a decent fighter. I mean, has wins. He beat Roman Kopylov 8-0, Wellington Turman, and then in the last one he lost to Vettori, who's now, probably the number 1 contender, and I think they're trying to set up that Adesanya fight. I like the odds of Allen getting a win by submission in this one. I think rear naked choke is definitely possible. Sometimes a position that we've seen Roberson in the past. He has a lot of submission losses. I believe all his losses are by submission. Now he takes on more of a submission specialist than Brendan Allen, who definitely has decent striking, but submission guy. I like Roberson on the feet. If he keeps it on the feet, he beats Allen, but I don't believe he'll be able to stay on his feet throughout the whole 3 rounds. Brendan Allen submission. I like the pick of Allen's submission for a prop bet. I'm potentially going to play it. Let's check out that Allen submission prop bet. Get it at plus 200. I don't love it now seeing that it's plus 200. I thought it'd be a bit higher. I do think that's a highly likely means of victory for him. I like the Brendan Allen bet. I do think he wins. I also don't hate the prop bet of him by submission because I really think that's the way he can do it here. I mean, you look, he has some TKOs on the record as well, but known a lot for his submission game. I like Brendan Allen inside the distance here, most likely by submission. Now, next fight is Dwight Grant and Stefan Succulent. Dwight Grant, minus 225 favorite. Succulent, the plus 180 dog. Let's pull up the image from the weigh-ins for these guys as well. Dwight Grant, he's getting a bit older, and I'm not saying that it's the end of his career because he's an older guy. He definitely still can fight. He's 36. His opponent's 29. Size about similar. I don't know why. I just feel like we're going to see Dwight Grant go out there and get beat by this guy, Stefan Succulent. I think Succulent has the tools to give him trouble. It's a guy who definitely does have decent striking, and he's a southpaw, which could be tricky to deal with for Dwight Grant, but he also is very notable on the ground. Decent takedowns, and also is a luta livre black belt. With Dwight Grant, I mean, he's a guy with a lot of pop in the hands, and he's a striker, and he's a good one at that. Granted, coming off a bad loss to Daniel Rodriguez, I feel like Succulent may go out there and surprise him. Could see him potentially put it on him and get a submission, but I'm more leaning decision win for Stefan Succulent at the plus 180. I think he's a dog that could really deliver. If he stays striking too long with Grant, I definitely believe he could be knocked out. But Succulent has been in there with a very notable name. It was Razman Amiv over 2.5 years ago, which does concern me a bit. Went the distance there. He's a good grappler, and I think that he poses a problem for Dwight Grant in this fight. And I'm going to pick Stefan Succulent to pull off the win in this one. It's a dog that I'm going to go with, and I don't think it's a far-fetched pick at all here. Now, the next fight and featured prelim Randy Brown, Alex Oliveira. I'll be honest, Oliveira looks good and intense at weigh-ins. This is the Oliveira that comes to fight. He seems like mentally he's in a better state than he'd been in the past. We'll quickly pull up the face-off between these two. Not as high def as the others. I apologize about that. I had to get a quick screenshot. But I mean, the size difference doesn't look too substantial in the favor of Randy Brown. Oliveira's in good shape, and when he's in good shape, he's not an easy guy to deal with here. Randy Brown has the reach advantage. It's not substantial. He is 4 inches taller. Granted, they didn't look 4 inches apart in height, more like 2.5, 3. This was a really tricky one even earlier in the week picking it, and I did go with Randy Brown to probably get a decision because of that big range advantage. And he does have a tricky grappling game. But if it's striking, I definitely like Oliveira. He's got some Muay Thai. He's got some good Muay Thai. He's a durable guy. He closes the distance. He's a pressure-heavy style. But I just fear he'll put himself in a bad position and get submitted. Randy Brown does have 4 submissions on the resume and 6 wins by knockout. I think this is a pretty competitive fight. The odds favor Randy Brown more so than I think they should. I think he could be more like a minus 135. And Alex Oliveira at plus money, he's not a bad pickup if you're looking for a dog bet. I'm still going to stick with my original pick. It hasn't swayed me enough to change it, but I am acknowledging the possibility of an upset here. And if I'm a betting man, I'm probably going to skip Randy Brown. If I'm looking to maybe pull off the upset, I'd maybe go towards Alex Oliveira. If you're thinking about parlaying up Brown, personally, don't love it. If you want to do it and you're feeling that confidence towards him, I mean, I still am picking him. He should get a close decision win here, but I feel like Alex Oliveira, his Muay Thai is very dangerous, and I think he could pose a threat here for Randy Brown, a guy who's been beaten before, he's been knocked out in the past. We'll see what happens in this fight. I think it's going to be a tricky one, and I do think it's very competitive and maybe a fight that you just skip the bet altogether and enjoy. But I am going to ride with Brown on a close decision, but not with the utmost confidence. Now, to start off the main card, Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Jimmy Crute. These two going at it is a really exciting matchup. Definitely crossroads fight. As crossroads as you can get, really. I mean, Anthony Smith more on the decline. Granted, he's coming off a win. Jimmy Crute, the hot prospect on the rise. Stare down was serious. It was intense. Jimmy Crute looks very confident. He's a young man, 25 years of age. He's improving so drastically. I mean, a loss here is by no means the end of the world for Jimmy Crute. A loss here for Anthony Smith is going to be a bad position for his career. I still feel like Jimmy Crute poses a serious ground threat to him with the top pressure and the ground and pound. Do I think it would be easy for him to finish Anthony Smith? Absolutely not. You look at Smith, he's not a guy that gets finished very easily at all. He is an excellent striker. One thing to note, the takedown average per 15 minutes of Jimmy Crute is 4.33, almost 4.5 takedowns. And he does have a 75% accuracy, whereas Anthony Smith, it's a 51% takedown defense rate. I feel like we're going to see Anthony Smith put on his back in this fight. And I think Jimmy Crute by a unanimous decision is a very real outcome between these two. And that's my pick. It's even potentially a prop pick here. I think he could maybe get the finish because Smith was a bit older, but he's not a guy that is easy to put away. You look at the losses, lost a decision to Jones, 4th round TKO against Glover, and then a decision to Rakic. I like the odds of a decision in this fight, and it goes towards Jimmy Crute. The odds around minus 200 rather. See what they're at. Yeah, about minus 200 to plus 185. Those are pretty much the standard odds you will see. Anthony Smith will be live probably in the first round and a half round, but I feel like Jimmy Crute's going to get a hold of him and get this fight to the ground. And I think Crute does have the power in his hands where he could stun Anthony Smith. Do I think he goes out there and knocks out Smith? I really don't, but I think he could submit him on the ground or definitely grind out a dominant decision. Now, Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. This is a super exciting matchup. OGs of the game, they rematch. This is the second time they've gone at it. It was years ago, that first fight. Both guys on weight, which is always great to see. And in this fight, Uriah Hall is looking for revenge. He said that Long Islanders are not real New Yorkers, which that was funny how Chris Weidman reacted there. I'll be honest. Uriah Hall and him, almost the same height. 2-inch difference. Doesn't look like 2 inches here. Maybe one of them has shoes, one of them doesn't. But Uriah Hall does have an 1.5-inch reach advantage. That's something to note in this fight. If they are striking, the advantage is Uriah Hall. He's extremely dynamic. He has an amazing opportunity. If he beats Chris Weidman here, I mean, I'm not going to say... I'm going to be honest. If he beats Chris Weidman, he's beaten Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman, who were the top guys as he was, coming up on the Ultimate Fighter. Even though he didn't go on to be champion, I do feel like he would have then lived up to the expectations and at least beating the two best guys, from his early era. I like Uriah Hall prop bet by knockout, but I'm not supremely confident in him going out there and beating Chris Weidman. I'll be 100% honest. Weidman's grappling game is a serious threat. But does Weidman have the ability, the movement, to get Uriah Hall down? I mean, Weidman hasn't looked great lately. He really has not. The odds for this fight right now, Weidman's a -130, Hall's a +120. Let's see the knockout prop bet. Hall by TKO or knockout is a +235. It's not terrible. It's not amazing. He's the plus money dog here. I think Uriah Hall is an absolute live dog in this fight. I feel like Chris Weidman's wrestling can definitely be a factor, but I don't think he's been as good of a wrestler as he was in the past. If Weidman shows up like Money Weidman that we've seen before, I really feel like he could beat Uriah Hall. Hall hasn't had great performances every time. I mean, he kind of goes out there and sometimes is a bit tentative and sluggish. I have a feeling he comes to fight here and has a great performance, but I also feel like Chris Weidman comes to fight tonight and has a great performance. If Uriah Hall wins, this really pushes him towards the top of the weight class, and I do think he'd get a pretty huge fight. But it's going to be hard to beat Chris Weidman. I'm going to reluctantly pick Chris Weidman on a decision here with a lot of grappling. But I really would love to see Uriah Hall by knockout. I feel like Weidman could do it. And I'm going to ride with Weidman, but I'm not going to be betting Weidman here. But I think a unanimous decision. Skip the bet. Enjoy the fight. If you are going to bet, maybe throw some money down on the prop bet of Uriah Hall. But now we have arrived at the championship fights on this card. If you haven't yet, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And let's talk about the first title fight of this 3-title fight card. Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. High-level MMA at its finest. Andrade, the former strawweight champion, is extremely dangerous with her striking, her grappling, pretty much everywhere. The way she rushes in is very John Lineker-esque with the flurries of hooks, and they definitely have power. Coming off of a first-round knockout of Caitlin Chukagian with body shots, Valentina Shevchenko had a serious test in her last fight against Jennifer Maia. Jessica Andrade is going to look to do similarly to what Maia did, but be victorious. Get this fight to the ground. I 100% believe we're going to see Jessica Andrade looking to take Valentina down. I do believe Valentina will be able to fend off the takedowns. I think the matchup against Maia was more difficult because of the size difference. Granted, on the feet, Andrade is definitely more capable than Jennifer Maia. I feel like Valentina is most likely going to go out there and work hard for a unanimous decision. That's my pick in this fight, and I do think that's what we're going to see happen. The weights for them, we'll quickly pull up the weigh-in. Let me get this face off here. Shevchenko versus Andrade. You see them facing off. Height advantage in favor of Valentina, as almost always for Jessica Andrade. She's a pretty short girl, especially 125 pounds, even though she's fought up 135 in the UFC before. Valentina by a hard-fought unanimous decision. I think she beats Jessica Andrade here. And at -460, she's definitely more of a parlay pickup than a straight-up bet here. We can check out the prop bets for this fight, but I will be honest, don't love a prop bet in this one because I think Valentina has multiple means of victory, but she's fighting a very game opponent. I don't like Shevchenko by TKO prop. Really don't like her by submission much at +475. It's good money, but unlikely, I feel. And Shevchenko winning by decision is at 165, which isn't great. I think she's a better parlay pickup at the -450 rather than playing with the prop bets. I think this is going to be an excellent fight, and you're going to see high-level striking. Valentina slightly outstriking Jessica Andrade, especially from range here, fending off the takedowns, maybe even landing some of her own. Similar victory the way Joanna and Jacek beat Jessica. I like Valentina here. She goes out there and she gets it done in my opinion here. Now we've gotten to the co-main event. Weili Zhang Rose Namajunas fight, I believe hardcore MMA fans have been waiting for a while now. This is a dream matchup. Two of the most entertaining female fighters on the planet. Both come with the heat. Both are excellent on the feet and well-rounded as well. I do feel like pure strength in the clinch, definitely going to go Weili Zhang has that advantage. Technical kickboxing from outside range, I do lean Rose. Tenacity and toughness, they both have it, but Weili Zhang is on another level of tough. I believe Weili is going to probably be competitive with Rose for the first 2 rounds, but I think she starts to edge her out in the third, and I think she does get a stoppage in the fourth. I'm leaning by TKO, but definitely TKO or submission here. I like the inside the distance for Weili Zhang here. I think she goes out there and beats Rose. You look at the fight with Rose and Andrade. She started gassing in that third round. She was getting hit a lot in that third round. If it was going 5, Andrade probably would have won that fight. And I think Weili Zhang goes out there and beats her. She gets herself a finish. Another title defense and another high-level name on the resume. Weili Zhang has looked amazing as of late, and coming off one of the greatest fights of all time over a year ago now against Joanna and Jacek. I think this fight will also deliver and be absolutely action-packed. I cannot wait to see it, and I'm riding Weili Zhang at the -200, and I do think she's a good parlay pickup, even a decent straight-up bet if you're not going to go crazy, or if you have the money to go crazy. I do think you could, because I think she's a lock pick here for Rose Namajunas. It's a great stylistic matchup, but it is going to be a lot of fun and an awesome fireworks fight. But let's talk about the main event, because we're here on the main event page. Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal. We've seen this fight before. We know what happened last time. Jorge Masvidal says, Kamaru was just rubbing his feet. I would say Kamaru used a superior game plan, taking advantage of the 10-point must system and scoring system of the UFC, or rather all unified MMA on the Western Hemisphere. I feel like we're going to see Usman clinch control, Masvidal back up against the cage again. It's going to be a lot of that. I do think he'll go for it a bit more. Maybe Masvidal gets a few nasty licks in. Feel like it's still Usman's fight. I think stylistically he matches up very well against Jorge Masvidal. Not in the striking, but in what he can do. He's an excellent grappler. He puts him against the cage and controls. I do love the idea of Masvidal winning. Masvidal's a super fun guy to watch. He's a fan favorite. He's street Jesus. I mean, look at the savage on the screen. And you look at Kamaru smiling at him. They had a bit of back and forth at the press conference. There's always a bit of tension between both these guys. The rematch is here, and I have to pick Kamaru Usman again, and I do believe we're going to see a similar fight. I think he goes out there and wins a unanimous decision over Jorge Masvidal. I do hope we get a better fight. I hope Masvidal is able to separate and land some big strikes, and I hope Usman chooses to strike with him a bit more. But I really feel like, realistically, you're going to see Usman strike a bit early, unless Masvidal catches him. I think Masvidal's best chance is in the first 2 rounds by knockout. Obviously he carries that power throughout the fight, but it's a lot less likely as he starts getting more fatigued in that clinch. His arms are going to be gassed by the end of the night. And Kamaru's going to want to finish, and he'll probably look to put the brakes, or rather push and take the foot off the brake and put it on the gas pedal, probably around mid-round 4. So watch for that. Maybe Usman turns up and gets a late stoppage. But I'm going to pick Usman by unanimous decision over Jorge Masvidal here. But we would love to see Gamebred go out there and pull off an upset. But Usman has the tools to beat him, and I believe he wins again here and defeats Jorge Masvidal in the main event of the evening. We're going to go over a bit of the betting now, talk about some potential prop bets. I have one loaded up here. A parlay with Usman, Weili Zhang, and Valentina. I really believe the 3-champ parlay is an extremely high likelihood of success parlay. I feel like they're all going to go out there and perform very well and get victories. I think we're looking at 3 and stills on this night. Now, do you want to add somebody else to the parlay? Are you looking for more risk? Are you looking for more guarantees? You're probably looking towards more of a guarantee, and I feel like Jimmy Crute at -200, bringing the parlay to +245, is an excellent addition. Granted, you're probably going to be shitting your pants through the whole main card if this is the parlay you play. I think the likelihood of success extremely high. That's a parlay I actually have myself here. Now, there are other options. I am going to talk about a potential second parlay. Maybe we won't use everybody from the main card. If you're trying not to use all main card fighters, you want to maybe throw some of the undercard guys down. People that I really like on this undercard, I feel like Zhang, lock pick, and I think he goes out there and puts on an excellent performance. Brendan Allen at minus 155. I also like him. That's a plus 138 parlay. This is a very winnable 2-fight parlay here, and I like the odds of it happening. Now, I don't really think you're going to want to put succulent, but if you did, it's a plus 577, and different, obviously, for your bookie, but going to be very good odds either way because he's a pretty solid dog here. And I feel like if you want to add one more fighter and you don't want him to be beyond, the 200, right there, you add Jimmy Crute, you have plus 256. I think these are three guys that go out there and perform extremely well and get the W's. At plus 256, the odds are great. If you want to go crazy, I'm going to still give you more. Add Weili Zhang, you're at around plus 444. That's a great 4-fight parlay with high likelihood of success. You need to add another name. And you really want to bring on, I feel, a lock pick. Maybe you put Usman, and that brings it to plus 571. Another fighter you could maybe bring on, but I don't love it as much, would be Namajunas. That's plus 716, which are some amazing odds. I don't know, some parlay ideas for you guys. Be careful with the parlays. Play it safe. Overall, though, we have a very fun card. High-level names. The fans are back in the building finally. This is going to be epic. Cannot wait for tomorrow. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on the post notifications too. You guys also should check out my social media. Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I will see you all in the next video.